party people. Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer, and this week on the show, we are closing out 2020, thank God, with a very special game of Penultimate with Quinn B. Rodriguez. Quinn is a tabletop RPG designer, sensitivity reader, actual play streamer, and honestly, just a wonderful person to hang out with and play a game. This was an experience that I really loved. Speaking of their design work, they are currently running a New Year's sale over on their itch page at quintastic.itch.io. You can pick up a number of their exquisitely crafted fever dreams, all for half price. You've got a couple days left to go get that in on that sale. I can't recommend it enough. I personally recommend picking up Penultimate, which is partially my segue into talking about the game that we played this week, and partially just because, goddamn, I adore the fever dream that is Penultimate. Penultimate is a game of wits between death and the witch that fell in love with them. One player plays the witch, mightiest of their kind, the other death, most feared by all mortals. You have danced and danced and danced, but the wick burns down for one of you and this macabre love affair cannot last. Penultimate is beautiful and sad and bittersweet and emotional and just this perfect, wonderful experience that, I loved just so much, and I really want you to go pick up this fever dream because it's incredible and it's beautiful and it's beyond just being great to play. It embodies that really wonderful sense of lyrical design where, the act of reading it, I gush about this on the episode, but, the act of reading it and is in itself this incredibly cathartic experience that I've gushed about this for a good long while now. Go pick up this game. Go get it for half off while it is on sale for the new year. Ring out 2020 with a beautiful, heart-wrenching story about death and the witch that loved them. You can find more information about Quinn's 2020 is Over party sale on itch.io and about Penultimate in the show note. Now, I think, unless I am mistaken, I think that's all I've got, so let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. This week, I am honestly just really excited to be sitting down with Quinn B. Rodriguez. Quinn, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jeff. I'm very excited to be here.
I am very excited as well. It has been a while. I know that we have been trying to lock down this recording for a while, and I'm excited that we're getting to do it, especially because the game that we're playing this week is one that you wrote and one that I've read through several times, and every single time I've read through it, I've gone, this is going to be dope. This is going to be a dope game and going to a dope episode. So I'm really excited. Speaking of that game, why don't you take a moment, let us know what we're playing this week, as well as anything else you've got going on that you might want the audience at home to know about.
Oh, geez. Okay, sure. So the game we're playing today is called Penultimate, and the unofficial tagline is a game of wits between death and the witch who fell in love with them. So...
It's a great tagline.
Thank you. It is a very queer game about the inevitable, and I'm bad at explaining it. It's just this, it's queer and it's about death and
what else do you need, honestly?
You want?
At the risk of sounding like a parody of myself, those were the two things that you told me about this game, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna play this on the show. Where this is gonna happen. And so, we both laughed when we said, what else do you need? But, at least for me, that was literally all I needed.
Apparently it's all I needed as well. And I worked with an illustrator, Jesse Wyrick, at Who's the Moose on Twitter, who is so fantastic, and I love working with Jesse. And the art in this game, it's really, so beautiful. It makes it.
It's so good. It's little, there's it's the pieces themselves, the actual illustrations are small and they're sparse, but they're sparse and small in the way that you want them to be, and that they convey tone, they convey the tone and the feel of the game perfectly. And spoilers, I guess. I'm going to talk about it now because I've told you about it twice off mic, and now we're going to put it on mic. So a core component of the game is the PDF is formatted with a candle that runs through, and every phase of the game is illustrated with a candle that slowly burns out. And as that happens, there is a gradient that runs through the game, the actual text of the game. The background changes from white to black. And the first time I read it, I thought my computer was messing up. And then I realized what was happening, and I jumped in my seat, and my partner Jen Frank, producer of the show, looked over at me and was like, "Jeff, what happened?" And I was like, "This game, it did a thing."
Oh my god. It's funny. There's a piece of art pretty early on, and I don't think Jessie has seen my Raven Skull tattoo, but it is identical to my Raven Skull tattoo that I got in Iceland last year. And when she sent it to me, I was like, oh, hello. Okay, that's familiar. Did you know I had this? I don't think I've seen you since I got this.
That rules. That rules so hard. That is amazing. That absolutely owns. Well, all right. Okay. I think we're ready to get into this thing. So we'll start with a note about safety, following the text of the book. This is a game about intimacy and vulnerability. We should talk about what we both want to gain from playing this game, about the things that we do and do not want to engage with.
But Jeff, from this fever dream.
Yes, you're right. You're sorry. The things we want to gain from this fever dream. We'll talk about the things we want to engage in not during play, and then we will respect those boundaries. So let me ask you, Quinn, what do you want to gain from this fever dream?
Why did I think that for some reason I would never have to answer this question about safety that I wrote? At the risk of sounding very corny, Jeff, I would just like to get to know you a little better through it.
I'm cool. You know what? I feel exactly the same. I want to, at the risk of sounding pretentious, there is a moment of loaded silence that is going to come at the end of this particular experience.
Yes.
And I want to savor that moment as much as possible. And I think getting to know you and having this quality experience together, I want that moment of silence to be something really powerful and something that I walk away from this thinking about.
See, Jeff, everything I do and write and say is pretentious, so I appreciate that so much, and I also want that, and I'm very excited.
Hell yeah. And so with that, what is there anything you don't want to come up or don't want to engage with during play?
I can't think of anything specific that hasn't come up in our previous safety talks.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would add to it is, I think for somewhat obvious reasons, and I think it probably won't necessarily come up having read through the text and knowing the flow of it, but I guess prolonged suffering, or particularly illness-related prolonged suffering, is something that I don't want to engage with. That is...
Absolutely.
I know that the flow of play, pushes it in a very different direction, but that is something that, if we cannot engage with, I would like that.
Yeah. That is super valid. Hell yeah.
Cool. And so with that, we have talked through our safety, and it is time to get into it. So the first question to answer... which of us will be playing the witch, and which of us will be playing death?
I would love to play the witch.
Done. So you are the witch, mightiest of their kind, and I am death, most feared by all mortals. You have danced and danced and danced, but the wick burns down for one of you, and this macabre love affair cannot last. Death only loves what they cannot have after all, and they have everything but you. So good. I'm really excited. So, we've got some stats. Each of us is going to have mortality, which measures our connection to the living. The higher the number, the more alive you are. And the other is cunning, which measures our ability to read the other's true intention. We have our materials are 2 6-sided dice, a timer, and a stopwatch. The witch, you're going to begin with a d6 in mortality and a d6 in cunning. I begin with 0 mortality, which makes sense, and a d6 in cunning. So I'm going to roll that 6-sided dice.
Where's my gay d6? There it is.
Yeah, you know what? I grabbed 2 creepy black marble dice. I'm grabbing my gay dice.
Gay dice.
Gay dice.
Gay dice. Gay dice. Let's see. Mortality 4. Okay, not bad. Not terrible. Because 0 is dead. Let's see. Cunning. 6! Ooh. That will be useful later, TM.
There it is.
I think, if I remembered the game that I wrote.
All right. So I have begun with a 0 in mortality, and I'm going to roll this D6. That is a 1 in cunning. All right.
Oh.
We'll get there. We'll figure it out. We'll play it by ear. We'll wing it. Okay. Now, and so with our stats filled out, we can begin the first movement.
Yes.
Which, would you like to read through the text on the first movement?
Yes, I will do so. Which, your time, like all else on this earth, has come. Take a moment to settle any mortal affairs, if you have them. Tell your partners, that it's time for you to die. Tell your friends that it's time for you to die. Do not tell them you might yet escape. Even you aren't sure that's true.
So what does that look like? Who, if anyone, are you telling that it's time for you to die? What does settling your mortal affairs look like?
I think I wake up early, because I know what day it is, and I've known this day is coming for a very long time. So I purposefully get up early with the sun, and I walk around my very empty home, very well lived in, loved home, and say goodbye to every, familiar inch of it. I've run my hands over the shelves and the walls and that one bastard creaky floorboard that I hate that I never fixed.
Let me ask you a question. What does the decor of this space look like? What does your witchy home? What is the aesthetic that makes up this place?
You know, it might be a little cliche, but it just feels very cottagecore.
Okay, I feel that. Yep.
Kind of like goth cottagecore, just like old witch out in the woods.
Sure.
doing my witchy thing with all my books and my various accoutrements.
Iconic, the kids would say.
Yes. The witch classic TM. Yeah, and I don't think there are any people in my life to say goodbye to. I think I might have outlived them, or there might not have been anyone at all.
I love that. So, when your affairs are in order, death knocks upon the door.
And we start the stopwatch.
I've pulled up a Google stopwatch, and I have started it.
All right, so for the benefit of the audience, which do not keep death waiting. Invite them in, offer them tea, coffee, bones, whiskey, water. So I open the door, and I recognize you, of course, and... Oh, Death, you're later than I thought you'd be. Come on in. Come on, can I get you some tea? The kettle is clearly boiling. I clearly remembered to state that in the things that I was doing beforehand.
I would love if you have honey, I would just love some hot water, honey, and maybe some lemon.
That can absolutely be arranged, and I will go off to do that in the kitchen. That's the place where you do things.
I picture Death as wearing... I'm going to say Death is wearing... I don't want to say strictly business wear, and I don't want to be so... I think Death is wearing... I'm going to say the vibe that I get is a biker jacket. Is like a black and silver trim biker jacket.
Ooh.
And it is shockingly immaculate, and I think it is more well kept than than such a thing should look like. And I think that it is maybe... Oh, it's definitely, the more I think about it, the more I love. It is a very kind of anachronistic looking jacket, though, right? It definitely has the fringe along the chest. It is a very kind of 70s looking jacket. And I think that it, for being something that looks so old and looks so out of place, it is immaculate. That leather still shines as if it was purchased yesterday.
I love that so much. That's so good.
I think I take the hot water and honey, and like I hold it, but I don't drink it for a very long time, and like I like it, until it sort of starts to cool and the honey kind of pools along the bottom, and then I just chug it back.
Excellent. So, which, if death accepts your gift, add a point to cunning. So I will do that. Which brings me to 7, which will be useful later. And then talk about the weather, talk about the neighbors, talk about anything other than the obvious. So I think the living room is kind of... There's like an unnecessary amount of seating, and I think most of it is either understuffed or overstuffed. And I don't think I, the witch, have changed out of my morning dressing gown, honestly, because what is the point? Yes, so I would take a seat on one of the overly plush chairs and gesture for you to take a seat wherever you want.
I think I continue to stand, and there is... I think at first it seems very ominous. Like, there's that very specific feeling of, like, looking up at someone, and, like, the world seems to converge around them. And then that is broken in an instant as I just stammer out, I don't know where to put the cup. Do you have a sink or a... I could just like put it on a table if that's easier. I don't want to make a ring. I don't know if you have coasters.
I think I will gesture to a coaster.
Okay, cool. And then I immediately like settle in, and then I'm very back to being like cool and mysterious. But in a
overly
way that,
conscientious death.
But in a way that I'm back to being like ominous, but in a way that feels... I think you probably know this better than anyone. This feels... Yeah. This is the bit, right? This is on the job.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think I probably sit back and just go, so, how many souls have you reaped already today?
Well, they like to say on the days when we're bringing in a big one that they drop our quota. So shockingly, none. Shockingly, I've only got the one soul to reap today.
Ah. Well, I heard, the Jenkinsons weren't doing terribly well, so I was wondering if you were paying them a visit anytime soon.
Oh, they will be, they've got honestly, we have a whole team coming to visit them tomorrow. It is going to be... It's gonna be... I mean, the news has been notified. It is going to be a scene.
Rather boring for you, isn't it?
Honestly, you'd think that, but sometimes, even if I'm not gonna be pictured for obvious reasons, sometimes getting involved in the tabloid stuff it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure, I guess I would describe it as. Like, getting to point to a clickbait article and being like, I was there for that. Like, there's something more satisfying for that than you would expect.
Do you read a lot of clickbait articles?
I'd like to say no. I would love to say no. I'd love to say I'm better than that, but no. I read them all the time. Because, here's the problem, is that I am extremely susceptible to a clickbait headline. Or if you send me a headline that's like, you're never going to believe what this person got caught doing, I gotta know. I have to know, and it is so frustrating.
And do you find them satisfying?
Again, I really wish I could say no. I wish that I could say that I don't. I wish I could say that I read them and feel dirty, but every single time I'm like, they were shopping at like oh my god, that's where they were shopping. Incredible. Wow. I can't believe famous people are just like us. And like, it gets me every time, and it drives me up a wall, because afterwards I will close it and go, well, that was nothing. That was a nothing story. That was a story about someone shopping at a 7-Eleven. That's not impressive. But in that moment, I'm like, wow, blows my mind. I don't know. Look, as much as I would love to continue to gossip, unless you happen to have some stories about famous people shopping at a 7-Eleven, I think you and I both know what's gonna happen today.
Oh, well, it's been a very long time since I personally went to a 7-Eleven, and, you know, honestly, I don't know what they look like these days. Are they similar? Do they still have those charming Slurpee machines? Like...
They do. They do indeed. They do indeed. I mean, technically, now, the nice thing, and I will tell you this, and this is, if you didn't hear it, let's say it put that way, you didn't hear it from me.
Okay.
Slurpee machines, like the proper Slurpee machine, not something that is on the other side. I was as shocked as anybody, but like if you're looking for something similar, like we have icy machines, like they're all over the place. So every corner's got an icy machine, but like the texture is different, and like they're just slightly different. So like you get used to ices, is what I'm saying. Like when we go through to the other side, go get used to the icy machine, because it's. I guess I don't know how they got a sponsorship with the Afterlife, but they seem to have gotten some kind of sponsorship with the Afterlife.
I mean, what is a Slurpee but a glorified icy, really?
I thought the same thing until they installed all the icy machines, and now there's like this little bit of like a different texture that like sometimes you kind of, I mean, I guess I have it easier than probably you will, because like I get to cross back over and go back and forth, but like it's a little different texture, and it's a little difference, you know? Look, I'll get you, if you want a Slurpee, we can stop for a Slurpee on the way.
Perhaps. And I think that brings us to the interlude.
I believe it does.
Pleasantries are mortal in their own way. Oh, I forgot to mention there were mechanics during that.
Yes.
I didn't just force Jeff to do a bit about Slurpees for fun.
But
I mean,
it
I
was
did,
fun.
but
like, don't get me wrong.
So for every 1 minute you successfully keep death distracted, add a point to mortality. And death, for every 1 minute you remind the witch they are meant to die today, add a point to cunning. And you have the stopwatch.
I do. I have stopped it. We ran for 11 minutes.
That is an incredible amount of time to do a bit about Slurpee.
It is. Between that and clickbait, we went some places, and I'm very pleased with it. I feel like you probably get a lot more of those minutes than I do.
Yeah?
I feel like we veered in a lot of places. I think I'd probably, a lot more of those minutes were spent talking about frivolities than we're talking about the fact that you are dying.
Yeah, I think I am inclined to agree. Although the moments where you did, I was like, how do I come back from that?
They felt pretty good. I was pretty proud of them. So
like,
I'd probably take like maybe 3 of
Slurpees.
those minutes,
Okay.
which puts me up to 4 cunning. And then that leaves the remaining 9 minutes, 11 minus 4 is, or 11 minus 3 is 8? 8. 8 points of mortality.
8. Oh, that's so many. Good.
Good. I'm excited.
So that brings us up to the interlude. Pleasantries are mortal in their own way. When your idle chatter has died, consider each other. Stop the stopwatch. Death has come to woo the witch. The witch would like to live just a little longer, though. Death, roll a d6. Witch, add your current cunning.
That is a 5.
And my current cunning is a 7.
So that is 12.
This is how many minutes the witch has to try to talk their way out of dying today.
All right. I'm setting a timer for 12 minutes.
Oh, God.
So, once I start the timer, we'll begin the third movement. The witch will want to keep Death distracted as long as possible. You may attempt to add a minute to the timer by spending 1 point of cunning to convince Death that the dance has not quite ended, by claiming you now would be too easy or mundane. If Death is successfully distracted, add a minute to the lifespan. I may draw attention at any time to your tactics by spending a point of cunning. Doing so reduces your mortality by 1. When the timer runs out or your mortality is reduced to 0, our relationship reaches its inevitable conclusion.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Quinn, I gotta say, as we read through this, like, the writing is so good. Like, the game is so short and so, like, it's so tightly written, and, like, the actual, like, prose in it is so poetic and perfect that, like, the little tiny flourishes that you were able to, like, pull out of this game in such little text is, like, it blows my mind, and it makes me, gets me so hyped.
That means a lot, because that's a thing that I talk about a lot when I talk about my fever dreams, is, like, they're spirit heavy and rules light. So it's very much like play, because, you know, you'll be going through a game or whatever, and it'll have pages and pages and pages of rules. And ultimately, as a player or as a GM, this one doesn't have a GM, but you end up, like, taking what you want anyway. So it's like, if I can just set the tone for someone to have a good time.
That's what it's all about.
If someone looks at the third movement and goes, fuck the numbers, let's just talk until the timer runs out, then, like, by all means, as long as you have a good time. Like, that's what I care about.
I'm here for it. I'm so here for it. All right. So I've got my points of cunning, and I'm going to start the timer.
Okay.
And the timer is going. So, I suppose we should get going.
I don't suppose you would want another cup of warm honey water? I have plenty, and some of the honey is fresh, actually, from one of the neighbors has recently taken up beekeeping, which I thought was fascinating and interesting. I've been learning a lot about bees lately.
I know what you're trying to do. I see what you're trying to do.
Teach you about bees, yes.
I am of two minds, because I know that you're trying to distract me, to draw me out, and to make this go a little longer. And I hate that it's working, because I do have a lot of bee opinions.
Let me go, and I will go to the kitchen and fix your thing. And please, I would like to hear all of your bee opinions.
Honestly, there's just... The real core of it is, like, you're never going to get store-bought honey that is the same as raising it yourself. Like...
Absolutely.
It is... I learned that I went to a bakery because, the bakery had burned down and somebody needed to be collected. And as I was collecting it, that is the one thing that they imparted on me, and I thought it was fascinating because it was kind of the one thing that they It's the one thing that they wanted to pass on, right? They wanted someone to know that store-bought honey does not match homemade honey. I don't know.
A noble thing to pass on.
Let me ask, what is your one thing to pass on? Because I hate to say this. It's kind of your last chance.
Oh, well, you know, me, I am.
I'm adding a minute to the lifespan.
Yep. I have spent a long time by myself, honestly, and, I suppose, you know, I haven't really thought about that.
No one ever does.
The thing I would pass on is that it's okay to be alone.
No one ever goes with that one, you know? You get so much, I feel like, and this is in no way knocking the things people have shared with me, because, you know, everybody is sharing something very personal, but, like, I've heard so much about treasuring the time that you spend with people that, gotta say, I don't hear enough about how good it can be to be alone, because sometimes I think that gets overlooked in the circumstances.
I feel that there are so many people that I've met who just are so afraid to be alone with themselves for whatever reason, and they're always surrounded by people or they're always in relationships, and they just never take that time to savor themselves and just the joy of being and the joy of becoming, because we are always becoming something new with every breath, with every cell that dies. Like, we are something new, and
we are
also the same.
We are, as you are right now, always headed to a meeting with me.
Sometimes you get to be a little late, though.
Sometimes I can fudge the numbers a little bit. I'm gonna add a minute and also spend a point of cunning.
Which means my mortality needs to go down one from a 12 to an 11.
All right.
So, at this point, the clock's gonna get me. Damn.
I can always fudge the numbers a little bit, but you know, we all end up going to the same place in the end, and there's only one. I mean, I guess technically there's one person that you go with, and that's me, but it is nice. I feel like it's got to be nice to be able to know that you're going to take that journey alone and be okay with it.
Yes. I suppose I will be. Do you visit? Or is that against your rules?
I need to take a moment to think about this, because I need to find the right answer to this. This is going to be me adding another minute. Because the truth of the matter is, well, let me tell you this. I'm gonna answer the question, but I have to give you two answers. Because the official answer is no, of course not. I am a messenger, and once I've delivered you to the location, to the drop site, they call it a drop site, and that is, like, weirdly sterile for what is happening, right? Are we in agreement about that?
That is very bizarre.
That's a weird choice for that word. But the official word is that once the deliverable has been received at the drop site, again, the language is, I keep coming back to it. It's the official wording is a lot to take in, but once the deliverable has been received at the drop site, then I'm done. My role is done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for you, though, for us, I've got days off. I've got time off.
And I suppose I'll have all the time in the world.
Yeah, no. which I guess is got to be a nice thing to think about, right? I mean, you know.
I mean, it depends. If there are activities, if I'll be bored, if there will be people that I will be forced to socialize with.
I think you'll be all right. Truth be told, there's about as many activities as you can make, as you can come up with for yourself. You know, it's a lot of it is what you make it, which, oh my god, I can't believe they give us so many. I'm adding a minute, as you've once again caught me. Here's the thing. There are they give us this packet with like the official talking points and the official lingo.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I really hate is when I find myself finding the packet really valuable. Cause like, I'm like, well, I don't want this. I didn't ask for your packet. Like, and I'm like, I know, like, and it's like, I want to believe that, like, I don't need your stinking packet. But then, like, I find moments like this where I'm able to say, like, it's gonna be what you make it, you know? Like, and I think, I'm gonna spend a point of cunning to say, I think you, no matter how much you are worried about it, and I can tell you're worried about it because you and I've had these conversations, and I know when you're worried about things, you do the long-winded, you catch me, and you've caught me. I will acknowledge that. It is what you make it, and I think, to your point, you're better alone than most. You know, that your question about, like, are there going to be people you're forced to socialize with? You're forced to socialize with people now? That's not going to change that much. But it's a long time, and I think you'll be okay.
May I ask you a personal question?
I'm an open book.
If you could have any mortal job instead of this gig, what would it be?
I'd love to make pizzas. Because you know who always seems like they're having a great time?
Who?
Pete. I'm adding a minute, because this is going to be a whole story. Pizza shop owners always seem like, you know, and again, a lot like with the bakeries, like, generally, a lot of times when I am meeting them, the circumstances have not been great. And yet, every single one of them, once we start the whole, like, you know, last conversation ritual stuff, they seem pretty jazzed. Like, and they always have a story. They always have an interesting story for themselves. And, like, I envy that, you know? There's a joy that they have in making stuff. And, like, and at the same time, there's a very particular loving rudeness that a pizza shop owner can have that you can't really have from anybody else. And, like, I spend so much of my time, like, giving people space. Because, like, you know, I'm me. Like, I'm giving you a lot of space right now, right? I'm giving you a lot of space. He said, spending a point of cunning. Like, I'm giving you space here because I know what's gonna happen in a few minutes. Like, I know what's coming. That I'd love to just kind of have the ability to tell someone to get a move on.
I mean, you do have that ability. Have you considered that perhaps I am taking the space for myself?
I think it's a two-way street.
I am down to my last point of cunning, by the way.
I think it's a two-way street. I think you are taking space that I am leaving open to be taken. I think, where there's an agreement here. And I think the fact that, as I spend my last point of cunning, I think we could be having this conversation on the bike. Have you seen the bike, by the way? I got it all finished out. There's a sick mural on the side of it. You're gonna love it.
No, I haven't, but I would love to hear more about it before I have to get on it.
I'm adding that minute. It's gonna be so it is, I got a mural on the side of it. I collected this airbrush artist. Terrible situation. Fume inhalation, really upsetting scene. But in exchange for some time to like handle some business, she painted an airbrushed mural on the side of the bike. It's like an outer space scene, and there's a dragon, and like Death is fighting the dragon, but not like me, because I like she offered, and I was like, that's a little bit weird. I don't want to have myself on a bike, but like like an artsy interpretation of Death with the scythe and the whole kit and caboodle, like fighting a dragon in space. It is so sick, and I feel. I don't want to sound conceited in saying this, but like I feel extremely cool riding this bike.
As you should. Who do you think you would win in a fight against a space dragon?
No, not at all. God, no. No. I don't think I have that skill set. But it's cool to see it on the side of the bike and imagine. Anyway, I've gotten off track. The bike, we gotta rewind bike to space, right? We could be having this conversation on the bike. Right? Like, a lot of these conversations are happening on the ride. We're not right now.
Right.
And only part of that is because you keep offering me this wonderful honey water, and to my previous point, really can't beat homemade honey.
I would offer you another, but I'm afraid I seem to have run out of honey.
Well, we're running out of a lot of things today. But we're having this conversation in comfy chairs, and you are taking space. But I think, and maybe if I can be so bold, maybe if I can impart something, because nobody ever asks, right? Recognize the gifts of the people that care about you, because you might not always see them. And I don't know. I guess I'm just to my point about two-way streets. Like, I recognize that like this conversation with someone that I care about, like, is a gift in and of itself, in the same way that us having this conversation for a few minutes is a gift from me. Like, recognize the things that we do for one another, because I think they're pretty special.
So there is wisdom somewhere in there.
Somewhere, once in a while. Most of which is picked up from people that I give rides to. I can't deny that. That one was all me, though. That one was all me. And I'm gonna take a moment of pride in that, because, I like I said, I don't get to be the one dropping this stuff all the time. I pick up a lot of stuff. I don't get to drop a lot of stuff. Well, I guess I technically drop off all kinds of stuff, but emotionally speaking.
It's true. You do so much listening, but how many people actually let you talk?
Not as many as I would like. And so I appreciate having this opportunity, and with someone who I'm actually genuinely interested in listening to, which is not to say that I don't like listening to everybody, but it's nice to...
Oh, I understand.
It's nice to match wits with somebody that I'm interested in matching wits with.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
So I guess, I mean, I'm glad that we got to use the rest of that honey.
Me too. It would have been a shame to have it just sit there and go bad.
Right? Somebody should get to enjoy, like, stuff like that. Like, it's meant to be enjoyed, right? Like,
yes,
your neighbor went through the effort of bottling it up. That stuff like that should be enjoyed, and I'm glad that we got to do that.
me too. Me too.
I wish I had something better to say other than I guess that makes it time. And that marks 0.
Whew.
Right? Which brings us to our climax.
Yep. So, witch, speak your final words.
Death, embrace the witch, separate them with dignity and tenderness from their mortal coil.
I think I look around the space that I have known for so long, and I look back at you. You know, I never liked feeling like I belonged to someone else. I never liked belonging to other people. So I guess that's why it's always been you.
Well, and I guess after today, you don't belong to anybody. This is your final obligation. I'm
Once more into the breach, my friend.
I am happy to give you this one final gift. From the moment you met, you have both been waiting for this. Revel in it. Say your bittersweet goodbyes. I think I open the door and I hold it for you, and as you're about to leave, I grab a jacket off of a coat rack and I throw it around your shoulders. I'm like,
Oh.
hop on.
No helmet?
You'll be fine.
I will sit side saddle.
And I start the bike and I ride and I go faster and faster, and the wind whips through your hair and the jacket flops around you. And I feel the wind and I feel the weight of another person on the back of the bike. And slowly and surely, like, my control over the back of the bike starts to shift a little bit, and, like, I start to lose that extra sense of stability around the back of the bike. And that, like, that weight distributes differently. And as I am driving, you fade away. And I never stop. But eventually I am just driving on my own. You are alone again now, Death. There was no one else like them in the world. And that's game.
Whew.
Yeah. Wow. Dang. Good.
Woof.
Debrief. How are we feeling?
That I have never played this game that I wrote.
Big designer mood.
So wow, my brain is just kind of like, wow, that worked.
That was it was. I will say, going back to the things that we wanted, I feel like I got exactly what I wanted. Where that moment of that ending of the game just hit me like a ton of bricks, and feeling the weight of that was just perfect. It was exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, that was wow. Whew.
This fever dream good, Quinn.
Thank you.
It was. I love how casual and like effortless the actual like the third movement was, the timed conversation, and like that there's this really wonderful feeling of like when the time is low, like naturally running like I think thinking about the mechanics and thinking it through, like there was a wonderful moment where we had both kind of spent all of the points that we could spend to like impact the timer. So there is what I guess I would call like the game incentive, right? Like the idea of like, I have a thing I can do to impact the game. Like we're out of that, which naturally pushed us towards that kind of ending of like running out of stuff to say, and like it sort of created that really beautiful lyrical like end of the conversation feeling of like, I don't really know what else to add here, and like having that be at that moment was so absolutely perfect and heartbreaking, but in that way that I wanted it to be.
Yes. Can I just say, playing this without being able to see the timer is extremely, like, it adds an extra layer of, like, it adds a little bit of edge to it, because I'm like, I don't know how much time I have, so I'm just gonna spend the cutting points, because I know how much mortality I have, and it's a lot. So it's really about the clock.
I loved that. It made me so happy, like, having those moments where I was like, that's a point of cunning. That's that, like, was wonderful.
And it really is. It's just verbal chess for however long you have.
And like, it's only, I mean, we were doing it for what, 12 minutes, but like it felt like saying it felt like an eternity feels like a criticism, but it is the best possible endorsement of like that experience just carried through perfectly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for playing it with me. It was incredible.
Thank you so much for having me on and for playing my weird queer fever dream with me.
Well, thank you so much. This was a delight. Real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you, your work, and Penultimate online?
So you can find all of my work, all of my social media stuff about tabletop actual play that I do on my website, which is tastic.me. It's got links to like all my socials and to my itch, which is where all my games are at. That's probably the best place to find me right now.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing the show. This was awesome. I had so much fun.
I had so much fun. This is so much fun.
Oh, I had such a great time. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Quinn for coming on the show. Sitting down and listening to that episode and like re-experiencing it was just a whole other level of wonderful. And I'm grateful that we got to explore that in play. It was a wonderful experience that I'm so happy about. Be sure to check out all of Quinn's work at tastic.me, as well as check the show notes for more information about their end-of-year itch.io sale and for more information about Penultimate. Then be sure to follow Quinn on Twitter at Quintastic, that's QUINNNTASTIC_. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Party of One Podcast. If you enjoy the show, consider leaving us a nice review on Podchaser, you can do it in other platforms, but Podchaser is the easiest one to do because you don't have to have like an iTunes account. And also it still sends like a nice little email to my inbox of like, hey, somebody said a nice thing about your show. And like, you know, that type of thing matters. That type of thing really makes me feel good. So go do that. You can also support the show financially at patreon.com/JeffStormer or Ko-fi.com/JeffStormer. Or, if you're looking for another way to support the show and you're looking to get more wonderful podcasts every week, go check out the other show that I produce with my best friend Aaron Catano-Sias called All My Fantasy Children. AMFC is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast on the One Shot Podcast Network, powered by you. Every week, we take a listener-submitted prompt and we spin that into an original fantasy character populating a shared universe, one story at a time. New episodes drop every Friday-ish. You're not my boss. At oneshotpodcast.com. Party of One is, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran featuring the D&D Sluggers. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming on the show as a guest, or about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And I think that's it. I think that's it for 2020. I think we did it. Well, all right. Well, until next time, until 2021, I've forgotten how to end my show. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the force of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.
Never gonna die. No, we're never gonna die. You can hear my words in this song. It'll play on after I'm long gone.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and ne'er brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne?